The untold truth of entrepreneurship is our discussion for today, family. Welcome to another episode of the Forum for the Marginalised. I am your host, Cindy Saoshengyan, and today I'm the most excited human being. But it is for a justifiable reason. Because the person that I'm going to be speaking to today is one of those rare gems of this world. So, when you speak about entrepreneurship, we speak about a matter that is often glorified. It is portrayed as the dream for freedom, innovation, and of course, wealth. So they say. But the truth is anything but the least. You know, imagine working for 12 to 14 hours in a day and managing limited cash, human resources, of course, and you're making crucial decisions that makes you not to even still not know whether your business will succeed. That can be mentally and physically exhausting. Oscar Molaba will tell you exactly why. But so there's no any other person, family, that is more befitting to have this discussion with today. There's a reason why I was saying that I'm very excited. I wish I can ululate a bit here for another day. So, Oscar Molaba, the managing director of Batanisa Technologies. According to the CIO views, Oscar is one of the 10 most empowering business leaders in Africa, people to follow in 2025. But there must be a justifiable reason why he is considered that. And today, this discussion for me is important because there is this myth and misconceptions and fallacies about entrepreneurship, Oscar.
Yes.
And what a better way and an opportunity to have you on the Forum for Marginalised.
Thank you so much.
We welcome you. It has been long coming.
Yes.
And I am so looking forward to have this discussion with you. You know, issues of marginalization, they transcend into a whole lot of things.
They do.
And it's about people.
Yeah.
And you're one of those entrepreneurs that have taken humanity at the center of what you do. And I think that's a reason why I naturally gravitated towards you when I actually met you.
Appreciate that.
And on behalf of perhaps maybe those South Africans that will still know you, because you're going to be a common feature of this podcast.
Okay.
Before we even go to what are the 5 misconceptions that do exist with regards to a person thinking of entrepreneurship, can we introduce Oscar to the world?
Thank you for that. After that introduction, I feel like my job here is done. Lest I say something that will take away from that. But thank you so much, Cindy, for having me. I did practice, pronouncing your surname. I hope I'll do it justice.
Izami.
Shonga.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
See, that's why I was saying here, this red gem, but
Wow, 10 out of 10 at least.
10 inca.
That gold star now is coming back to me clearly. By introduction, Oscar Molaba. Grew up in Rustenburg, and beyond growing up in Rustenburg, started in Pretoria, then started to work in Joburg. So been working in Joburg for about 19 years. Of the 19 years, I've been an entrepreneur for about 14 years of those. I guess just passionate about making a difference, impacting lives, changing those lives. It's quite broad, I guess, in terms of what it is that I believe I do with my entrepreneurial journey. But more than anything, at the center of it is people, elevating them, inspiring them, giving them a sense of belief in themselves, and encouraging them to do more than what we've come to be related to in terms of being a career-driven person. So I guess, there's more, right? There are quite a number of layers, but that for me is the fundamental one more than anything. And yeah, in your introduction, you captured quite a lot of things that, from an entrepreneur's point of view, are interesting aspects of the entrepreneurship journey. And I look forward to unpacking them with you. And I am very much excited to be here. Yeah, I could just hug this mic.
Oh.
Because I can't hug you across these two mics, right? But yeah.
But let's talk about the 5 misconceptions that do exist about entrepreneurship. I would love us to sort of drill down to that.
Yes.
Because at the core of it all, there is this perception or misconception, if I can put it like that, that sort of glorifies entrepreneurship but does not put things into context.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that this discussion, the message of it all, will be putting things into a correct context.
Yeah. I believe it will, somewhat, right? Because life, journey, entrepreneurship is subjective, if anything. It's an individualized or a personalized journey, but one shares it from that point of view in correlation to what that subject is, right? So from being an entrepreneur for these number of years, some of the things that I've learned about that are misconceptions about entrepreneurship are multi-layered, but at the top is, for me, just starting. Just starting is not as easy as people think it ought to be, or they make it out to be. I'll circle back, right? And then the second one is about partnerships, forming partnerships that are right. And then the third one is really about loss and regret, right? The fourth one is about passion and faith. Then I believe the other one escapes me for now, but I will circle around to it. I do have it. So maybe as I unpack the other ones, it will get triggered, right? Let's circle back to the first one where I speak about just starting. People think you wake up one day and you decide you want to be an entrepreneur for, if not all of the reasons that you put forth in the introduction, for the wealth one. Because we all want money, right? We all need money. And we all believe in being an entrepreneur, you'll make as much money as the world can offer you. But what they tend to forget is you start for a reason. What is at the center of your reason? me, the people aspect, like we've established. For some, solving a problem. What do you use to solve a problem? For others, they identify a gap and they are lucky enough to identify a gap. But even within that, then there are key questions. Have you researched it? You know, what are the key aspects of doing that you would like to do with your entrepreneurial journey? You know, are there products or services that are similar that exist out there? What market are you going to cover? What price points are you going to use? So it's just a sense of a dipstick in terms of saying it could be that, it could be this. There's so many key decision making points about starting that a lot of people overlook, and they just want to get going, and they forget that in getting going you need to build towards something, you know. And even with things, whether it's a product or a service or whatever solution that you are building, it exists. What makes you different? You know, I think back when I started in 2011, I started by scribbling, you know, in my notepad for about a year before even we got going. Could have been by design, could have been by coincidence, could have been by anything for that matter. But I found that lead time helped me to build a solid foundation from which to start. Even when, you know, things are unfolding, I at least circle back to something that I spent so much time focusing on before we actually got going, you know. The other part, which is the second part that I mentioned about partnerships, is quite a fundamental one as well, because you get school fees from that for free, by the way. You pay school fees rather for that, you know. You get the right partner, you're well on your way. You will balance each other out. You get the wrong partner or partners, then you will learn the hard way about the brutality of entrepreneurship, right? And what, in actual fact, that brutality is all about in entrepreneurship. And with that, actually, I've just remembered the third thing, which was support system, you know, and I'll unpack it. But with the partnership part, going back to it, you need to get into the proverbial ring with your partner or your potential partner. Find out about each other, you know, what makes you tick, what makes them tick, what then comes to the fore in high pressure moments, you know. Are you aligned? What are your principles saying? Values, things like, you know, objectives. Are you starting because, you know, you're chasing money, or are you starting for purposes of legacy, or are you starting to simply sell the business at some point? You need to figure those things out. And there are so many mechanisms that can help you do that. One of them, fundamentally, is you get into those small projects together. You get into that proverbial ring that I spoke about. You box a little bit or you dance, whichever one that suits, you know. There are key tools that will help you from a legality point of view, whether it's contracts like NDA, teaming agreements, partnership agreements, but fundamentally even like your MOIs, your shareholder agreements, when you transition to the next level, right? From a support system perspective, you really need to build a strong support system, or at least allow it to be built for you. I've learned over the years that you can't force things, you know, whether it be friends, it be business acquaintances, or it be family, straight up. You know, not everyone in that, you know, value chain or an ecosystem for a support system will support you the same way. So I believe with that, then, you know, that misconception about when you start, people will rally to your to your support is not natural for a lot of people. So It takes time, and quite often, and even in recent conversations, I did speak about how our mission for this year, not only at my individual level, but at the company level, it's about finding the right tribe. Right tribe like client, right partner, right OEM partner, right whatever that will help us build for the future where we will be solid, right? Loss and regret, not enough is said about that, because I believe at some point or another as an entrepreneur, you will lose something. Could be a contract, could be a partner, could be an employee, could be anything really within the fundamentals of running your business. And with that, then how you actually, respond to that should speak volume about what it is that lies ahead in your future. I mean, of late, I don't read a lot, by the way, but I got introduced to, I guess, a philosopher by the name of Confucius, watching motivational videos, of prominent people. But more than anything, I mean, he speaks about how, paraphrasing, your strength lies in not never falling, but about how you pick yourself up. And with that, it's the loss and regret fundamental principle for me that says, don't dwell. You dwell long enough, you start to experience a sinkhole phenomenon where it just drags you down. And then the other one is passion and faith, right? If you think about passion and faith, why are you starting? What are you passionate about? And more than anything, that's what sees you through. That's what helps you navigate the hard times, the good times as well. Because when you're passionate about something, you enjoy, or you at least try and enjoy either side of the coin, whether it's good times or bad times. I think from a passion perspective, like I said, I don't read a lot, but motivational videos. Steve Jobs speaks in one video where they ask him a question about how he's sitting with Bill Gates, and they ask him a question about how they've managed to build so much value, and what would they actually sort of like say to the up and coming entrepreneurs. And he speaks about how when you don't have a passion for something, in entrepreneurship, then, you're one of those that will start. But at some point, because you're not passionate about it, you'll stop. Because he then comically says, because you are sane, So in actual fact, you have to, in quotation marks, be insane to keep going and keep going. But more than anything, it's in relation to what you're passionate about.
So
Mhlawumbe.
I get you. I get you.
Because I think for me, when we personalize it and speak about me, like I said, it's about the people. Why do I keep going? Because I believe I haven't even scratched the surface. And even though the numbers for a company that's small or old, depending on what side of the fence you are on, it hasn't really done much, and we'd like to do more. The faith part, it goes without saying. You have to be centered in something. For me, it's my God and my ancestors. You have to be centered in something, because it will balance out the insanity and keep you safe. So
I want to start, and for us to be able to go back and unpack the starting part. A lot of people would say, or readings or sayings that would say that, you're not going to make money as an employee. You only going to make money when you make money for yourself.
I've heard that one before.
And that motivates an individual.
Yeah.
Whether that individual is passionate or not passionate about something, but it's a motivator.
Yeah.
But what is it that blindsides people from exactly that? Because the concept itself, when you really look at it, if you really drill down into entrepreneurship and you're able to sort of work the ecosystem in a manner that you thrive, the end result of it is exactly what the saying is actually saying.
Exactly.
Where do we now take that and link to what you had said from the beginning in terms of starting?
Yeah.
Because that's a motivator.
Yeah.
But the starting part,
yeah.
Where do you get blindsided?
I think there's this thing, and I've posted about it in the past, right? It's called the iceberg illusion. The iceberg illusion is where people see above the surface and they think, wow, beautiful, glory, success, all those positive words. And they hardly ever look beneath the surface to see what's going on. You know, in one of our previous encounters, I spoke about the duck effect. You know, what do you see when a duck is gliding over the water or through the water, whatever the right thing is? You see this well-composed thing just, floating away. But the moment you then start to take the lens beneath the surface of the water, it's paddling. And then that's what people then actually, make the mistake. And sometimes it's a mistake that can be costly, because you think, look at Oscar, whatever fits or floats your boat, and you think, he's successful, he's staying where he's, got so many employees. But you forget those employees, every decision that I make has an impact on their lives, their families' lives, and anyone else that is not seen to be part of their lives that are dependent on them, because they're not going to come in every day and tell you, oh, the other day I had to give Banbani Mali or Akibele taxi, or whatever the case might be. So people overlook those decision touch points to say, when I'm in my chair, I'm making decisions for so many people and so many other people that are dependent on them. And you're making decisions for people on behalf of people's careers, right? And it's quite interesting how people overlook something like that. But also at the same time, entrepreneurship is glorified because we have some beautiful success stories. We really do, right? But you scratch the surface, you drill down, and you look at maybe even people like what's this guy's name? Jeff Bezos. You look at the Bill Gates of this world. You look at, unfortunately he's late now, your Steve Jobs of this world. And you try and, drill down, and you find out how much of their organizations in the latter stages did they own, or do they own? And you find out that they own a very small percentage, because over time, people come in that are clever than you. People come in that, have a brighter sense of what the future is going to be about. Because then you need to understand that entrepreneurship, sometimes you're only good enough to start something, and then other people can come in and actually take it to the next level, right? And then when you think about the opening statement you made about wealth, about, how people think, if I'm an employee, I'm not going to make enough money. Tell that to the telco CEOs of this country. Tell that to the banking CEOs of this country. Did they start those organizations? No. But if you see, what they make within those organizations, it actually proves that you can be an employee. You can work your way up to that wealth, right? I mean, tell that to the Google CEOs of this world. Tell that to the Microsoft CEOs of this world, the Apple CEOs of this world. They didn't start those organizations, but they worked up the ladder to make those big money moves. And are they not comfortable? Are they not wealthy? What are we saying? You know, being an employee sometimes is a perfect fit for your future. And I'm not saying it out of being biased. I'm saying it because sometimes people overlook what we're talking about, the misconceptions about being an entrepreneur, and think, I can do it. And then when the kitchen gets hot, what do? They pick up the phone and they call you and they say, can I come back? You know, because it's not easy. Can't be easy. It's hard. Every day of our lives, even on weekends, we have to consider so many decision-making points. And not only that, even our families, our friends, our, business acquaintances start to see you navigate this thing, not the best way that everyone can, but they get a sense of comfort coming to you and consulting with you. And you have to take all of that on your shoulders, because that's what you are, or that's who you are.
So you start a business and you encounter so many things, because we all experience business in our own different way.
Yes.
And, when I started, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I don't want to lie. I'm one of those that had a very rude awakening. Where you get in there and you're asking yourself, because I had, I had this. I've been cushioned,
yes,
for quite some time,
yes,
and now everything is so laid bare.
Yes.
And at the same time, now you are starting to take responsibility on your shoulders.
Absolutely.
And then you get to this journey where you start identifying a partner.
Yes.
You know what you're doing. You think you know what you're doing. Let's get it right. You think you know what you're doing. You're getting in there. You think you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then you're gravitating towards a part where you're saying, but for me to be able to get to 1, 2, 3, and 4, I need to be able to align.
Yes.
And in alignment, that means you need to be able to get an individual that perhaps maybe you think would be compatible.
Yes.
With how you think.
Yes.
With your vision.
Yes.
And when you sit there at face value and when you discuss a subject matter or a business that you've identified.
Yes.
At first there is this alignment.
Yeah.
And the wheels comes off.
Yeah. Grand Kiso, by the way.
That partnership part that you were talking about. Yeah. Because I think we need to be able to educate people from that transitional period. Because those things that you're talking about, it's a full cycle of what makes up an entrepreneur.
Yes.
It is the starting.
Yes.
It is now identifying Oscar.
Yes.
When Cindy identifies Oscar, what is it that should go into your mind as Cindy's?
You just flipped the script on me. Very hard. I thought I was very good on thinking on my feet, but clearly. But that's just the thing, right? With time, you improve. With time, you get better. There's a lot I can speak about of the Oscar of back then. If Cindy Swa had met him back then, what she would have thought of him as a potential partner, and the Oscar now, right? And over time, it's taken all of these experiences to shape the Oscar now.
The Oscar now.
Yeah, this is me buying time, by the way, to answer a question. I'm not that slick, clearly. but I think the Oscar now, like we've established is, in quotation marks, a well-experienced business person who's had tough times, if not torrid times, in business. I think in the 14 years we've seen our business experience an upward trajectory of growth, and then it plateaued, then it dropped. It did that twice in 14 years. The recent one being last year, and we're rebuilding again because, like I said, what is the passion here? What is the purpose here? It's simple. It's about the people that are in the business, that are meant to have the business elevate, enable, act as a launchpad for their careers. One day, I would like to stand proud and see some of them having started what I did, excelling better than how I did. Another thing about Oscar being seen as a potential partner is really that Oscar is not chasing money here. It's chasing impact. The goal here is how many lives can we better? The goal here is what do we leave behind as some form of legacy? Have I changed one life? Yes. More than that? Yes. Is that enough? No. There are 8 billion people in this world, right? If I've touched even like 100 lives at this moment in time, which essentially is a rough number of how many lives we've touched with the business, right? Is that enough? No. Can we work out a percentage of how much 100 is of a billion? It's way too low, So that is the other part. What is Oscar's objective, about being an entrepreneur, resilience, being relentless. That's what you would get, because here I am standing and believing that I'm strong enough to give it a go again, starting from the bottom again. Would I do it in about a year, in 3 or 5 years time? Yes, for as long as I feel I haven't made the impact that is sufficient for me to maybe go live happily ever, find my happily ever after on a farm or whatever, I will do it again. So I'm relentless in that. And what does that mean for a lot of people? That means you would have a partner that will not rest, knowing that the problems that face our business have not been solved. A partner that will go out of his way to find solutions to solve those problems, From a resilience perspective, that is built over time, right? Do I have a thick enough skin to survive this entrepreneurship journey? I think so. Is it at the end of it? No. There are so many things that I haven't learned from entrepreneurship that I will still learn in the next coming years. Because also, if you think about, a point that I made about us finding our tribe, that means we're opening ourselves up to learn what different clients or good fitting clients for our future are like. Are they going to be perfect clients? No. They've got their own problems that they will bring at our doorstep, that will shape us better, that will shape us differently. In as much as they will be defined as our tribe, even the partners, we are changing our business at the moment. It's no longer like the business of the past 13 years or 14 years rather, because we're in our 15th year, by the way. So we're changing our service provision from being X to being Y, and to more being OEM centric beyond the people, right? Because we're balancing it out for the future, because it can't afford to dip to ground zero like it has in the past 2 times. That will bring new things, and that's the resilience that will be built in iteration, of course, because then I'm going into new avenues, right? A partner that things like the faith aspect will kneel down with you if you're a believer and say, let's pray. What are we praying about this time? I don't know. I just feel like let's pray. Whatever it takes, I think the partner that would be sort of like be received by Cindy at the stage in time is a more well-rounded partner, like the one of obviously 10, 15 years ago. Will he be the same partner in 10 years' time? No. I'll be different then, because the iterating part comes at every touch point, whether it's success, whether it's failure. I'm developing. I'm sitting here developing as we speak, because you just flip the script on me. And in my answer, I'm actually realizing that there's so much I still want to give of myself for not only the benefit of the business, but for the benefit of others. I mean, will I stop preaching about entrepreneurship? No. Will I stop encouraging people to take up entrepreneurship? As much as it's hard, no. Because you really have to give it a shot, right? I share quite a lot about my journey, by the way, not for the purposes of being boastful, but for the purposes of other people potentially learning from the good and the bad that I've experienced and being better at it than I can ever be at that time.
So what blindsides people most? I like the blindsided part, because I think we don't really delve more onto it.
Yeah.
What we look at is superficial things that we would say, I connect Oscar.
Yeah.
We met and Oscar came up with this idea, and I think Oscar will be a perfect fit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there are certain red flags that you pick up.
Yes.
And those are the things where I think the message that has to come out from this discussion is being able to assist whoever that wants to start and that wants to identify a partner to think.
Yes. Yeah.
And the blind-sidedness part of it is the one that we tend to overlook.
Yes.
It's like in starting.
Yes.
So let's get into that blind-sidedness.
I think it's going into things cold turkey, right? You meet me, I sound good, I sound like I know what I'm talking about. Whether it's BS or not, you don't know. But you find out the hard way down the line. Yeah.
You roll your tongue. You roll.
A colleague of mine, one that we know both, right?
Sure.
There was a Wade, which is Midiro, and he pronounced it Midiro, and we were like, and then what's going on? But I mean, in that sense, maybe you're eloquent, and people think, wow, what a find, what a gem, like you said, and they find out that maybe my work ethic doesn't match up to that, but it's too late. They find out that sure, I'm good enough for the beginning part, but I lack consistency. I lack sustainability over a certain period of time. I'm only good for a certain period of time, and beyond that, it's curtains.
Sure.
It circles back to what I was saying about going into partnerships. Don't jump into it, because don't.
Yes.
That proverbial ring I spoke about, whether you're dancing, whether you're boxing in it, it's one project, it's two, it's three projects that you're working with this person to find out who they truly are before you formalize the partnerships in being an eternity thing. Like I said, I mean, from a legality, well, legal, like I'm French or something. From a legal point of view, right? There's a teaming agreement that you can sign instead of a partnership agreement that might, be stronger than a teaming agreement that identifies your both of you in the individual sense, right?
Okay, so you can start by teaming up.
By teaming up.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yes.
Team up.
Yes, okay.
Don't become, partners that already are talking shareholder agreements, like I was saying. Already we're talking memorandum of incorporation. No, team up. Get into that ring, box a little bit, find out, like I said, when there's high pressure, that person reacta kanjani to pressure. What do they do in the high pressure moments? Can you sleep very good at night knowing that they will stand the test of time? Can you go away knowing that they will stand the test of time? So that's what I would encourage people to do from a partnership perspective. So I guess, don't jump into it. Get into projects.
Let's talk about loss.
Can you see me tearing up?
Let's unpack this thing. Let's. Sure. Clarify.
Yeah.
The loss and the loss and the loss and the loss.
Yeah.
Before we even move to a point of asking yourself, Mari, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah. The best way to kick that off, I think, is the different touch points of the dip that I spoke about.
Sure.
They are exactly 10 years apart. Right? Like I said, the recent one is last year. The other one is 10 years ago from then, which is 2014. What happened in 2014? We were, I think at the time, excluding me, 7 employees, all the way to ground zero, where no employees, and had to rebuild from that. What did we lose there? The momentum of growth, more than anything. The momentum of the people that were in the business developing at any given point in time. We lost all of that, right? The recent one, which was, last year and 10 years apart from the first one, how many people were in the business at the time? More than 25. In that financial year, we did a check, because obviously, when you do reporting about how that year went, some of the key aspects are things like your human capital and the payroll that goes with it. And I was given the stat that in that previous financial year of 2014, March 2023 to February 2024, we had 34 unique individuals on our payroll. And at the time, that year closed in Feb 2024. And I was having this report in August 2024, and I was sitting with 0, needing to start all over again. Okay, what did we lose? The momentum of growth, because unlike 10 years before that, we had grown by quite a number of 100%, right? From 7 to 34. You multiply that by quite a number, My math is failing me, but usually it's on point. But anyway, we'll accept that. I think if it was 35, it would be about 6 or 7 times, right? That we had grown by. And then the momentum of the people that were developing with the company as it was developing and growing, right? I think in classification from a South African point of view, you were an EME when you generate X amount of money. Then you become a QSE before you become generic.
Sure.
So we went from QSE all the way down to not even EME, because when you're at 0, you're a startup all over again. So when you talk about loss, I think we lost quite a lot from that perspective, right? I mean, think about how I think I'm doing well, not connected to money, but it also is fundamental that we lost all that revenue, because where was all that revenue going? We were compliant, meaning the regulatory bodies of South Africa were getting their fair share of what we were doing. They also lost that. Are they going to come knock on our doors and maybe even audit us? Likely, because when you lose like that, you wonder why this person is no longer paying, right? And what were they doing with that money? That money was going to the fiscus, our GDP. Where is it now? I don't know, because I'm no longer, transacting business with those organizations. The people whose jobs were secure at the time were no longer secure, I had to obviously react to that and terminate employment in line with the loss of revenue, because how then do you make the business sustainable when it's not receiving income but only expensive, or whatever the right terminology is. Me, what did I lose? I mean, in your introduction, it's physically taxing, it's mentally taxing, it's also emotionally taxing, because all of that is a loss that doesn't impact me alone. It impacts my immediate family. It impacts my, immediate family. I would mean, like, because now immediate family in the past would have been my parents and siblings, but my immediate family now is my family, wife, kids, my other immediate family from birth, my parents, my siblings, my relatives, my friends that could lean on me. They also lost. Do they know this? As a matter of fact, not necessarily, right? Because have I changed? Not really, but all those three things combined is a loss I personally suffered, because am I mentally the same as I was before that? No, of course not. How do you lose such traction and you remain the same? Mentally, hell no. What am I doing to maintain not only composure, but I guess being better in the future? Quite a lot, because in rebuilding you discover other aspects, because you're iterating and you have to build the business better than it was before. Emotionally, it goes without saying, because of how I approach business. Did I lose employees? Did I lose colleagues? I lost colleagues. I lost family members that we were going somewhere with them. And we had actually arguably a high retention rate because of our approach. You see, a high retention rate would suggest that, in the sector that we're in, which is information and communication technology, IT, a high retention rate is rare, because people, job hop to get better salaries, mainly at the core of it. They job hop to get better opportunities. But I think our approach and our style of how we interacted with our people, we made them understand the intricacies that led to us paying them a certain salary, and for reasons that were behind us paying certain salaries. And, again, the decision touch points, why are you paying X instead of Y? It's because you're getting paid a certain amount and you can only go up to a certain level. Market related wise, is it matching? Sometimes no. But why do people stay? It's because of how open, transparent, and how I guess, personable you are, because you build a business for them, not for yourself.
So in moving to regret, what were the lowest moments of your loss?
I guess it starts with that last part, in that segment where I speak about losing family.
Yeah.
I don't know where they are now, what they are up to. Would I love to know? Yes. Would I love to be part of that? Of course. That's a major regret in terms of having lost. But is it on me per se? I don't think so, because did we not do all that we could to hold on to them? We did. One of the key stats about the guys that worked with us on certain projects over the last 6 years, where the client was our biggest success. It's a telco company, and we had, I think, about 80 consultants come and go over the period of the 6 years. And of the 80 consultants, 80% of them were unemployed.
Sure.
Such was the impact of what I speak about, that we practiced it, we tested it, and came out with such a high number. And the decisions that we had made deliberately and intentionally to employ these unemployed candidates at the time to become our family members echoed true with why I had started the business. I know we talk regret, but there were proud moments there where you've employed someone who was unemployed for such a period of time, where your peers in the business world, your competitors also, where they overlook them because of the period that they were unemployed, because of when they last worked, because they think they haven't kept up, And we then made a deliberate and intentional decision to actually say, what are we going to do with people like this that apply? And the decision, obviously the buck stopped with me, but we had a partner in the recruitment space that was helping us recruit. And she brought it forward to say, what do you think about this?
That understood you. Yes, that understood you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely, And the decision was then made to say, let's give them a chance. At least at the minimum bare. Let's engage with them, because our interviews are not your typical interviews, traditional ones. I'm looking to catch you out. No, it's let's have a conversation. Let me understand whether you understand what it is that we do, and whether you're well equipped for us to put you in front of the client, And when you've ticked off those check boxes, there are those that we had to turn back or turn down, because they were too out of touch. And you obviously understand that there's a reputation at stake with not only the client, but the work that they're doing and where you impact, right? So, I know, it's from that perspective. So I guess in encapsulation, what was my biggest regret over the period of time is, having the client who was the right client for our growth, but be the wrong client for what it is that we believe in and why we do what we do. Yeah. So
personally, regret?
I could have been better as a leader. I definitely could have been better. And what do I mean by that? I got stuck in that account because it was our biggest account to date. I was the account manager. I was, finance. I was, certain key touch points of the business where I could have understood that in the growth that we're experiencing, you hire talented individuals that look after that better than I do.
Yes.
And I would have elevated and focused on more strategy than being stuck at being operational, because that's
at some point I actually suffered from that.
Yeah.
I actually had, that is the biggest thing about entrepreneurs, by the way. Oscar, where you get to a point where it's like nobody knows it better than I do. So I would multitask
Yes.
and multitask
Yes.
and drain yourself to the core,
Yes.
simply because you want it to come out, something to come out the way that you want it to come out.
Yes.
But not to even think that great minds out there
Yeah.
exist to empower you.
Absolutely. Yes.
And that part, yes, that I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
I
They're not
agree with you.
competition.
Yes.
No, they're not. They are there to actually take the business to the next level, right? And I mean, this theory was proved right. I sit here, have we turned the business around? Yes. Have we kicked off on the projects to turn it around? Not yet, But with that twist or that shift of elevating, I mean, we recently signed, one of the biggest banks in South Africa. And we're just waiting and gearing to get going because we know the kind of impact that we're going to have. The value that we're going to add is immense.
I wanted to actually go to exactly that in terms of what you do with regards to your business, but that will be our second segment.
Yeah.
In terms of being able to look at that value.
Yes.
And what it really means as a consumer to derive value from that.
Yes.
Without really us being technical about it.
Yeah.
But you also touch on passion.
Yeah.
We'll start off our discussion with faith. Yeah. I think that is for me. It transcends beyond anything.
Yeah.
The passion part about it.
Yeah.
When you're talking about being passionate about something, what are we talking about? We throw this word passionate and stuff. Like I'm very passionate. You see, Ukaya is resonating with me with this background music.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that Ukaya, when he's sleeping, there's passion in that.
Yeah.
So I want to encapsulate this word passion.
Yeah.
Because then it talks into everything that we started talking about in terms of those five key elements that we just described.
Yeah. I guess it starts
not jive by passion.
Where's the table? Show me a table, I'll show you what passion is.
Not jive by passion.
Yeah. No, please. Yeah. Find me all relaxed. And we're having some nice, interesting drinks.
Oh my goodness.
I'm on the table.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not this formal. I'm floating. Hey. What's a kwasa to Oscar?
They're not jackets any longer.
No. Please,
So let's talk passion.
So it's interesting because I guess it starts with where did it start, right? And more recently, it's quite interesting that I had forgotten about my inner child. What did my inner child want to do? And what did he want to leave behind in this world? And quite key is understanding where it started for me wanting to be a business person. First trip to Joburg. I grew up in Rustenburg, by the way, right? On the outskirts of Rustenburg, in a bit of a bubble, if one can call it that. If you were very good at something, you were the best. Did you know anyone else in the world that could do it better? Yes, on TV, but not your counterparts in South Africa per se. So first trip to Joburg, my uncle, who's my mother's younger brother, who also contributed to me actually wanting to be an entrepreneur because he's the first entrepreneur that I experienced in my life. My mother, my father are both entrepreneurs in their late age. They're both pensioners, by the way. Anyway, I'll circle back to that. So first trip to Joburg, and then we're driving on the N1, and it's by that strip by Melrose Arch, where you've got these high-rise buildings, not like in New York, but high rise in South Africa standards, I guess. And these boards that tell you the names of the companies. Obviously, I can't remember back then because I was in my teens. I must have been 12 or 13. And you're looking on some wonder and you think, could that be my brand one day? That's where it started, Funny enough, at the time, I wanted to be a soccer star, right? But as fate would have it, I was very good at soccer, but didn't make it pro. Like so many other youngsters in South Africa or in the sporting fraternity, whether it's soccer, whether it's rugby, whether it's cricket, not all of us are going to make it. But do you have a plan to fall back? So my passion point is where it started to, over time, it being shaped by my thinking. In my notes going backwards, you will find things like, what would I like to do? I'd like to elevate. What would I like to do? I would like to impact lives differently. What would I like to be? An enabler. I'm not talking about recent things. I'm talking about what would I like to be when you pray to your God or when you speak to your ancestors? I know that's part of faith, but I'd like to be a vessel of your work, Lord, for people to then, through me, achieve certain things, be different, understand that there's more to life than just being timid, just gliding, just being a number. My passion lies in most of those things, if not beyond that. My passion is truthfully and honestly is not money. I keep saying, and it's a joke, but it's a true joke. I could be driving around in a Porsche, but I'm not, because I chose to empower. I chose to share when others were not sharing. Out of the people that we spoke about that they were unemployed, part of the passion was really and truthfully and honestly about changing their lives. They can tell you how they came in at X point in terms of their packages, and we thought, no, this can't be, this is not on, let's adjust, let's have them at least, if not being market related, being as close to being market related as possible. We saw, I think, horrific stats and data, and we did our best to adjust. And those are, in essence, and in being truthful, profits that I could have used to live a much better life than I am. But is the one that I'm living good enough? I never expected it. Yeah.
Let's set it off a bit.
Yeah.
There's numerous interpretations with regards to faith. But let's put it in the context of business.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, when you're going through the most, there has to be something that you stick on.
Yes.
Because it is that.
Yes.
That sets you apart from a person that could start and could not finish.
Yes.
So I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But I want to take it personal to Oscar.
Zonkalisms.
Oscar's faith. You spoke about twice running a business and starting from scratch. But there is something underpinning you and underlying there that makes you to get up. And I would love you to share what it is. When you're at your deepest and darkest moments.
Yeah. So, I've got an ace up my sleeve. To avoid crying, I'm gonna... Something I missed on the last part, right?
Yeah.
About passion. Our values are truthfully and honestly Ubuntu-centric. if you go on our page, wherever you find it, you will find our values, our footsteps from being happy, or rather from being about Ubuntu, and then other steps in between until you are happy and going back to being fulfilled. That's how I break the emotion part about the faith and the deep lying things. So it's been shaken quite a number of times, right? Because is it easy to do what we do as entrepreneurs? It's not, I think maybe to contextualize it in my journey and having it personal, the reason why I do what I do makes it extremely hard in the tough, in the torrid moments to keep faith, because you obviously speak to your God, you speak to your ancestors, and you ask, you know what lies in my heart, why would you take me all the way up there and allow me to drop so low that, in times you can't maintain the life that you have. You don't have income. How are you gonna maintain the life? Your life has progressed. You are no longer alone. You are no longer just with your partner. You have a child now, and then you ask yourself tough questions about your faith. Why am I believing in you as God when in the good, arguably good, that I do, I get actually to experience this, the ancestors, in as much as you go through certain things, you ask them as well the tough points. My faith got shaken quite recently, and it got shaken, but then it got redirected into place, and it's quite interesting the incidents that redirected it. If people think we are living on our own on this planet, sure, they are right, because you can be right in your own sense, you can be wrong in another sense. For me, it was a dream, and someone from the other side came through and said, Chief, you're not who you're meant to be. Catch a wake up. And that was when I was going through the slump after learning those different states of the dip, and they were in a state to say, why are you allowing yourself to be like this? Because at the end of the day, what you do is not for your own benefit alone, it's for the benefit of others too. And when I circle back to those that I had let go, they were not finding employment, and that cut me even deeper and made sense why the person had come through. In my faith, another one was my son helping me to pause, to say, Chief, do you ever think about your well-being? In his own way, in as much as a toddler, he did it, my brother sending me a sweet message about, and he's a sweet adult. He's a work of God and ancestors. But in that, and funny enough, my son and my brothers, it was the same day, that caused me to just break down and acknowledge that I'm human. I'm not superhuman, in the little success that I've been blessed with on this planet, and the work that I've done for others. I got to understand that I matter too in that day, and it broke me apart. And quite often, more recently, I break apart quite easily, but I think it's in acknowledgement that the famous say men cry too. They do, and they ought to, more often than not. The other part is how we watch from a distance people go through what I would call training to be sangomas and whatnot, and we forget that we don't all have to be a masangoma. I've had a spiritual journey that is linked to Ubu Sangoma, but I'm not a Sangoma. But I've gone through that, and it's shaped how I see things and how different I am and what I do to, preach and do better with myself. No, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
That wasn't supposed to happen. Yeah.
Parting shot. One word of being an entrepreneur.
Strength, I guess, right? It has to build into being strong in order to tick off all those other things, because do they matter when you're not strong? I think not.
Family. This explains exactly what I had said in my introduction. The journey of entrepreneurship is not an easy journey. But I think we are fortunate in this lifetime that we have the most influential persons in Africa that we get to sit with and we get to engage, and that would be as vulnerable as they can be. It's not all glory, but it's about perseverance. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. Please click, please share, please like. We are going to be speaking to him about his business after this. My God, did he choose something that is technical? But you know what? He's here. We are coming back for the second part with Oscar Molaba. Thank you, Oscar.
Thank you.
Thank you for making time.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you for opening up.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I hope somebody out there has taken something, and somebody that wants to enter into this journey, they'll be able to learn from you. I'm hoping that you'll be the voice of reason for many. I'm hoping that you'll be the light that you always shine for many, including myself.
Thank you.
I'm very thankful for you to come through.